Richard. Do you like winter time? I do. You can wrap up warm and play outside in the snow. Well, tonight's bedtime story is all about Winnie the witch and her cat Wilbur. But they're both very fed up with winter. So Winnie decides to do something about it. Winnie the witch looked out of her window and shivered. Oh, her garden was covered in snow. Her pond was covered in ice. Icicles hung from the rooftops. I'm tired of winter, said Winnie. Wilbur came in through the cat flap. His feet were wet and his whiskers were frozen. Wilbur was tired of winter too. Suddenly, Winnie had an idea. She stopped what she was doing, took down her big book of spells and read it carefully. Then she put on her woolly coat, her fluffy hat, her snow boots, her gloves and her scarf. She picked up her wand and she went outside. Wilbur already had a fur coat on, so he went outside too. He thought something exciting might happen and he wanted to watch. Winnie shut her eyes. She stood on tiptoes, counted to 10, waved her wand 5 times and shouted, "Abracadabra!" And something magical happened. Above Winnie's house, the sun shone brightly. The sky was deep blue. All the snow had disappeared. It was no longer winter at Winnie's house. It was sunny summer. Well, Winnie took off her woolly coat, her fluffy hat, her snow boots, her gloves and her scarf. She got her deck chair. She went out into the garden to sit in the sun. This is lovely, said Winnie. Summer is much nicer. Wilbur lay down in the sun and purred. This is lovely, he thought. Summer is much nicer than winter. All over the garden, little animals were waking up. They'd been having their winter sleep and they were very cross. They came out into the garden yawning sleepily. Yeah, it's too early for summer, they grumbled. Yeah, we want to go back to sleep. The flowers had been asleep under the snow. They woke up and began to grow. Up came the leaves, and then the flowers, but the sun was too hot for them. Their heads began to droop. All the lovely flowers were dying. Winnie was worried. The animals and the flowers didn't like her lovely summer. Then she heard a very strange noise. Winnie turned around, and there behind her was a great crowd of people. They were running along the road towards her house. They crowded into her garden. They took off their coats, their hats, their boots, their gloves and their scarves. Then they sat in the sunshine. They walked on Winnie's flowers. They put orange peel on Winnie's grass and they paddled in Winnie's pond. Well, soon there was no room for Winnie and Wilbur in the garden. They went inside and looked out of the window. The noise was horrible. And the mess was horrible. Winnie's lovely summer was horrible. Then Winnie heard another strange noise. A tinkling noise. Somebody was selling ice creams in her garden. Winnie was furious. She grabbed her wand. She rushed outside. She stamped her foot, shut her eyes, counted to 10, waved her wand 5 times and shouted, "Abracadabra!" The sun disappeared. The blue sky disappeared. And the snow began to fall. Well, the people put on their coats, their hats, their boots, their gloves and their scarves and they rushed home. The animals went back to bed to finish their winter sleep and the flowers went back under the ground to wait for spring. Winnie and Wilbur went back inside. Winnie made a cup of hot chocolate and a toasted muffin. Wilbur had a saucer of warm milk. And Winnie snuggled into bed. Wilbur curled up at the foot of the bed and purred. "This is warm and cozy," said Winnie. "Winter is lovely too." and that story was called Winnie in Winter. I think it's time for you to snuggle up in bed too. Night-night. Sleep tight. Hi, I'm Richard, and this is the CBeebies Bedtime Hour. Keep watching, as I'll be here to tell you a bedtime story shortly about a little boy who wants to stay under his bed. See you soon. Hello, my name's Richard, and I'm here to tell you tonight's bedtime story. Now, I really like dinosaurs and dragons. I quite like witches and furry, colourful monsters. Well, they just make me laugh. But in tonight's story, there's something that's making a little boy hide under the bed. I wonder what it is. The story's called I'm Not Going Out There. I'm under the bed, hardly poking out my head. It's a squeeze and it hurts my knees, but I don't care. Can you guess? Do you know why I whisper soft and low? I'm not going out there. There's a dragon breathing smoke who looks far too fierce to stroke, and his eyes have got a scary sort of stare. I hope he doesn't stay, but he is not what makes me say I'm not going out there. There's a ghost who's got no head, with some toast and chocolate spread, which I'm sure he would be very pleased to share. And though I'd like a bite, I'm still keeping out of sight. I'm not going out there. There are witches, old and stubbly, round a bath all hot and bubbly, busy washing all their dirty underwear, hanging knickers out to dry. But they're not the reason why I'm not going out there. There are monsters of all sizes doing ballet exercises, wearing tutus and pink ribbons in their hair. And though they look quite charming, there's something else alarming. I'm not going out there. Then there's suddenly a shrieking and a squealing and a squeaking loud enough to give the boldest beast a scare. Now I'm shaking and I'm quaking. There's the noise of something breaking. I'm not going out there. The dragon turns quite pale, from his nostrils to his tail, feels a trembling in his tum. Oh, I really want my mum. Mustn't panic, gasps the ghost. Keep your head, don't lose your toast. I can haunt some other day. Now I need to get away. The witches spill their washing and go splishing, splashing, sploshing, soaked and soapy, slipping, sliding, searching for a place to hide in. Hide from what? They'll soon find out. They can hear it scream and shout, and it doesn't sound like fun. Better hurry, better run! The monsters don't feel brave, but now they know how to behave, so they dance off in a row, each one on his tippy toe. Then all that I can hear, very loud and very near, is the thing that made them flee. Do you know what it can be? It's got teeth that can gnash. It's got eyes that can flash. I can hear it grumping, jumping, hear it stamping, stomping, thumping. It's got hands that can snatch, and it's got nails that can scratch, and it's ready for a fight. So we're squeezed and squashed up tight. There it is, my sister Kate. And she's in a frightful state, making shrieking sounds and leaping in the air. By now, she must know who put the spider in her shoe. I'm not going out there. And that story was called I'm Not Going Out There. Oh, I'm not surprised he didn't want to go out there. But I think he and the cuddly monsters had a good time under the bed. And now, it's time for you to go to bed. Good night. See you soon. Hello, my name's Richard, and I'm going to be reading you a story about a squirrel who loses his food. So, keep watching, and I'll see you soon. Hello, I'm Richard, and I've lost my jumper somewhere in CBeebies. I know I had it when I came in, but I don't know where it is now. Have you ever lost something? Well, in tonight's bedtime story, Squirrel can't remember where he's put his food. The story is called The Lost Acorns. It was autumn in the forest, and Squirrel was busy. He picked up an acorn, polished it with his bushy tail, and he hid it in a secret place. Then he picked up another and another. There were so many acorns to collect for winter, and so many acorn hiding places for Squirrel to remember. By the winding path, beneath the silver birches, under the pink pebble on the riverbank, in the hollow log beside the mossy tree stump, between the tangled roots of the old beech tree, or was it the old chestnut tree? Squirrel tried hard to remember, but a fuzzy feeling came into his head. It was no use. He'd forgotten. Oh dear, he sighed. Then he had a brilliant idea. I'll hide all the acorns together. Then I'll only need to remember one hiding place. So Squirrel dug a big hole and rolled all his acorns into it. He covered them with soil and he raked it with a twig. And finally, he marked the spot with a long knobbly stick, a bright red maple leaf, and the plumpest mushroom in the forest. Perfect, said Squirrel, and went home for a rest. Meanwhile, Toad was looking for a comfy chair for his burrow. He tried some mushrooms. Oh, one was too wobbly. One was too squishy. One was too spotty. Then Toad saw the plumpest mushroom in the forest. Perfect, he croaked, with a broad toad smile. Mouse hurried home in the rain. If only I had an umbrella, she sighed. Then she saw a bright red maple leaf. Perfect, she squeaked with a little mouse giggle. Bat was in his cave, and he had a problem. These walls are far too slippery, he thought. I need something to hold on to. Then he saw a long, knobbly stick. Perfect, he grinned with a cheerful bat chuckle. A few days later, a snowflake drifted down onto Squirrel's nose. Ah, he shivered. It must be winter. Time to check on my acorn treasure. He searched and searched, but he couldn't find it anywhere. Then he had another brilliant idea. He could ask Toad, Mouse and Bat for help. Have you seen a long knobbly stick, a bright red maple leaf, and the plumpest mushroom in the forest? Asked Squirrel. Toad, Mouse and Bat blushed. Sorry, they said. We didn't know these were yours. Thank you, said Squirrel. But what I'm really looking for is my acorn treasure. Now, I've lost it forever, and I'll have nothing to eat all winter. Don't worry, said Toad, Mouse and Bat. We'll help you. And so, through the long cold winter, Bat fed Squirrel upside-down breakfasts. Crunchy grasshoppers with milk. Yummy, said Squirrel. Mouse invited Squirrel for lazy lunches. Baked turnip with corns and blackberries for dessert. Very nice, said Squirrel. And Toad served Squirrel scrumptious suppers. Pondweed soup and worm spaghetti. More, please, said Squirrel. Squirrel enjoyed all the delicious food his friends made for him, but sometimes he wondered what had happened to his lost acorns. At last it was spring. Toad, Mouse and Bat came out of their houses. Where's Squirrel? They asked. They knocked on his tree, but he wasn't at home. So they strolled through the forest, looking at the grass and smelling the flowers. And then they saw him standing in a circle of green leaves. I found my acorns, Squirrel smiled. And look how they've grown. And that was the story of the lost acorns. Now, maybe if I think what else I had with me, I might be able to find my jumper. While I look for it, it's time for you to go to bed. Night-night. See you soon. Now, where is my jumper?